Struggle does not equal failure. Now that is a revelation for me. A deep, deep revelation for me. So I was speaking to a dear friend and she was sharing a story with me just this morning. And she said, struggle does not equal failure. And I paused her and I said, wow, that is for me right now. Because I need to be honest. I feel that I have been failing as a father. I have not been able to soothe my daughter at times. And before I continue with all the things that I can't do, let me be really clear. These are stories inside of my head. And I was communicating this with my wife just yesterday and really breaking down, to be really honest and real. And just tears streaming down my cheek. Not knowing how to be with this, thinking and believing that I'm failing her. My wife said, she was breastfeeding my daughter and she said, are you our greatest teacher? Are you bringing out all our shadow parts? And I paused. And she didn't mean that it's her fault or she's responsible for that. We're talking about being catalysts for transformation here. And big events, meaningful things, important things in our lives will do that and be that for us. And I started reflecting on my worthlessness that's coming up because that's what's underlying all of this, that I'm not doing it right. My perfectionistic tendencies, my need for perfectionism, to do it right, to get it right, to be loved. Because when I got it right, when I was younger, I was not even loved, but just not beaten, just not hurt. And when I perceive myself to be failing with my daughter as a father, failing as a partner, it brings up a lot of old stuff. Now, I've done a lot of work around that, and there's deep resolution around these parts of my being, and there are layers now with this introduction of this new and beautiful being that is not purposely, or maybe, I don't know, but testing, challenging, expanding. And the last week or two, I've just felt like a failure. I haven't been available. I don't see her enough. I don't spend enough time with her. I have other priorities, other more important things. Are they more important? I don't even know. And the reflection I get from my wife and from other people, close friends and people that see how I am with my daughter and see how I am with my family, differs from the stories in my head. And so my heart almost feels closed to myself, close to my potential, closed to what is possible and real. And I feel like I'm failing, but struggle does not mean failure. Let those words permeate your soul just for a moment. Struggle does not equal failure. Fuck, man, that is big for me right now. Because I am struggling in certain areas, particularly internally. A lot of old dad stuff's coming up. Just not being enough for him, not feeling enough, not feeling like I'm getting life right, observing him frustrated in his everyday being and interpreting that as, well, he's not getting it right. Therefore, I need to get it right for him, for us. Taking on that responsibility and the perfectionism, the perfectionist traits coming and stemming from that and living from that place. Painful, to be honest. Painful. And I look at that precious little girl and I think, am I even getting it right? Am I on point? Am I in alignment? Am I setting her up for success? Am I doing enough? Am I enough? And then the shame creeps in that accompanies the guilt and the frustration and the self-loathing. Again, that self-loathing is very familiar to me. I grew up with that, seeing my mother and my father in that. Now, I'm not blaming them. I am simply recollecting old memories and maybe learning to dance with them a little differently, to be more raw with them, to be more connected to them, for them. so that I can reshape my perception of self to then show up differently to the beauty in my life, to the graciousness that has graced me, inclusive of my wife and that dynamic. And it hasn't been easy. I feel like I'm holding a lot, doing a lot, being a lot, overwhelming myself with excessive concern and worry about the job that I'm doing, needing to fulfill my duty. That perfectionist trait, it's alive. And it's complementing the OCD in me. Now, I don't have a formal diagnosis of OCD, nor do I believe I do, but I definitely have compulsions and tendencies for things to be in their place in my physical environment, in my internal self, in my relationships. And when they're not in place, there's sometimes this panic. And panic's a strong word, but there's this intensity that arises within me. Frustration, confusion, worry. And that's a new thing. It's not an old thing. It's not a familiar thing. Somewhat. I can say somewhat, but not at the intensity it is now. And so that is causing me or asking me to look deeper within myself and my relationship to the things that matter to me. And so struggle does not mean failure. I'm sitting with that. And I'm sitting with the sense that I am failing and doing my best to not judge that and be compassionate towards those parts, to be in deeper communion with them so that I can understand them at a deeper level, in a deeper way. Yeah. Parenthood is an initiation. Fatherhood is an initiation. And if we are not emotionally mature, or if we don't strive to be connected to the core of who we are, we suffer endlessly and needlessly. Struggle does not mean failure. And when we don't make struggle mean failure, our relationship to that struggle shifts, oscillates, it transforms, it evolves and expands. And that gives us the opportunity to expand. And so I am grateful for the expansion, albeit painful right now. Power and blessings to you.